Amba 360. I'm joined live by Dr. Ebenezer Akwanga, the Commander-in-Chief of the Southern Cameroon's Defense Force, SOCADEF, and the leader of the Southern Cameroon's Youth League. Dr. Ebenezer Akwanga is no stranger to the struggle. He needs no introduction, and I'm indeed very happy to be having the honor to interview him this evening. Welcome to the program, Doctor.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, thank you, sir. Like I just said, the doctor will need really no introduction to the Ambazonian community. Our viewers are mostly Ambazonian, so I will go straight into engaging the doctor with some questions that I came up with. I actually had people sending me some questions on a forum that I should ask doctor, so I have quite a few. I'll get right into it, doctor, if you don't mind.
You're welcome.
All right. Doctor, as the Commander-in-Chief of the SCYL, can we have a brief background of the movement, what it's all about, some of its activities in regards to the Southern Cameroon struggle?
Thank you very much, Derek. I am actually not the Commander-in-Chief of the SCYL. The SCYL is a liberation movement which arm wing is called the Southern Cameroon's Defense Force, SOCADEF. The SCYL came to being on the 28th of May, 1995, the same day that the Southern Cameroon's Defense Force was created. And the reason why the SCYL decided to create the Defense Force in unison at the same time was because we were actually reading from the ANC handbook, where the ANC, which was actually first the South African Native National Congress, SANC, was created in 1912, and then a couple of years later, in 1923, the SANC became the African National Congress. And the reason why SANC became the African National Congress was because the intention of the founding fathers of SANC was to bring every African, every black within the confines of South Africa at that time to belong to that particular movement. So when the ANC came up was finally created in 1923 as an offshoot of SANC, which was formed in 1912. It took 43 years before the ANC was able to realize that marching the streets with lists, singing praises with placards will not destroy the apartheid monstrous regime. That is exactly what happened. And that is why when we created the SCYL, we said we will not wait for 2 minutes without creating a defense force. Because what we read at the Republic du Cameroon and from Paul Bartholomew Biak-Bimbondo was very clear. There is just no way that we can talk our way to our freedom. We recognized that in 1995, that there is just no way that we can march our way to our freedom. Because we know whom we were dealing with. We know we were dealing with a very dangerous system that whatever it takes to destroy our people. So we created the SCYL and immediately created a self-defense group, SOCADEF. We, SOCADEF, the Nkotowasis of the Ambazonian struggle. And many people for SOCADEF died for SOCADEF, went to prison for SOCADEF. And it was SOCADEF that actually put the Southern Cameroon struggle, present-day Ambazonia, on the international map. Because of what SOCADEF did in 1997, Jeune Afrique Économie of Blaise Pascal Talla was able to carry 6 subsequent editions from March 1997, explaining the Southern Cameroon's context at that time, the historical context, the geographical situation, and the evil that our people have been in for so long. So
Thank you.
that is how the Cameroon's Youth League came about. But the question that we need to ask ourselves is, why was the Youth League created?
That is exactly what I wanted to ask you, Doctor.
Good. The Southern Cameroon's Youth League was created at a time that we have just finished the all Anglophone conferences 1 and 2 in Boya and Bamenda. And we created the Youth League because it became very certain to us that those who were at the helm of the Southern Cameroon's National Council, the SCNC, which has just come out as an offshoot of the AAC conferences, that most of them were retirees, were people who were still looking back at the system in Yaoundé to pay the retirement benefits. So they were more than cautious. They were too cautious for a liberation struggle. And you can see that cautiousness in this very flag that we, the people of Ambazonia, carry today. It is a flag that does not denote a liberation struggle. It is a flag that seems to be as all what we want is to win Nobel Peace Prize from the Oslo Club. It does not identify the blood we have shared, the sufferings of our people. It is a flag drawn from the Union Jack and the flag of the United States. It is a flag that has to go hand in hand with the very motto of the SNC, the force of argument, not the argument of force. A motto that all of us know many years ago became obsolete. A motto that took us nowhere, that brought us more pain and suffering. Because the people who were dealing with were not people who understood the language of the force of argument and not the argument of force. They understood the argument of force, and that is why we created Socadef. And we, all of us, Eric, every ambassador, will come to agree that it was the right thing we did in 1995.
Absolutely.
We are fighting today, not because we want to fight. It's because we are dealing with the people who consider us to be something less than human. We are worse than the dogs and cats that people use as their pets to these guys. They will kill us. They will do whatever they want to do to us. And you will still find people within us imbued with the act of cowardice who will still think that you can make peace with Lucifer. It can't work. The only language La Republic Cameroon understand is brute force.
Very clear
it
message,
should be
Doctor.
force for force. And then at the end of the day, both sides have to sit on the negotiating table in front of a third party. No broomstick. In one of my meetings with John Fundu, he said, you can't use a broomstick to kill a viper. And that is what our people did for so many years until 1997. We said we have had enough of it. We didn't succeed. But we, at La Republic du Cameroon, know one thing, that we were prepared to die for what is ours. We were born free, and no man, no state, no people, no government has the capacity or the right to take that freedom away from us, except God. And that will be the day we will have to transit to the next of humanity, the day we go to the other side of the world.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for that very clear understanding of why the SCYL was created in 1996. So, Doctor, you probably are the first, only successful person to have escaped the Konangi maximum prison. Really, I would like you to tell our viewers what took you to that prison, and at least tell us a brief of your dramatic historic escape from probably one of Africa's deadliest prisons.
Thank you very much for that question, Derek. This is what I have to say. After AAC 1 and AAC 2 and the creation of the SCNC, it was decided that a 9-man delegation should take an international tour, probably to the United Nations and to London. They were going to London because the United Kingdom were the former mandated masters of the mandated territory of the former British Southern Cameroon. This delegation had amongst itself A.N. Simbu, Kassin Anyangwe, Simon Munzu, Sape Kontan Elad, Henry Fossum, John Cook Foncha, Solomon Muna, Arnold Boyomba. It was a 9-man delegation. What happened in the course of constituting this delegation was that they needed a youth to be as of it. First, the youth will have to produce part of the air ticket. This was difficult. It was very difficult because none of us had the capacity to do that at that time. So the 9-man delegation equally had difficulties. Ambassador Fossum had to put his house in Yaoundé. He handed his house to the bank to collect some extra money to meet up with the transportation for the 9-man delegation. When this delegation left for New York and for London, they came back with the UN flag. And we, the people of the Southern Cameroons, were convinced. We of the SCYL were really convinced that this flag was handed to them by the UN. I can assure you that by that time, in 1995, 1996, I couldn't believe that you can go to the United States, go to a flag shop, and buy a flag. And nobody will blame me at that time because, you know, back in La République du Cameroon, even those who work for the system, the evil system, you cannot touch their own flag. It is almost like a taboo to play with the flag of your country, which is what we are supposed to do to show an act of patriotism. So when they came with the UN flag, and we welcomed them at the Mongo Bridge, I was the one with the megaphone, which I took from engineer Anyangwe, who was working within the Tico rubber factory. I was with the megaphone. I started announcing their coming from the Mongo Bridge right up to the Mount Mary maternity, where I issued the oath of the struggle for the first time. Southern Cameroons must win this war. Therefore, I will walk, I will serve, I will save, I will sacrifice, I will endure, I will fight cheerfully and do my utmost, even unto death, as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone. So help me God. This is just when the delegation came back, 1995. We were already talking of war in 1995, that Southern Cameroon must win this war. But we were looking at war from two contexts. The Cold War, which was ongoing with our continuous persecution, and the outright war which Tokadev was preparing itself to launch against this monstrous annexationist regime. So, this delegation came back with this flag. And a meeting took place in the house of Barrister Sam Ekoltang Elat. I had the flag with me. I insisted that the flag should be hoisted in the compound of Barrister Elat. That day, Pa Muna and Pa Foncha were also in the meeting. And Barrister Sam Ekoltang Elat said we should not hoist the flag. I said, why? The UN gave you this flag. You people brought it to us to inform us that we are back to being a trust territory. We are no longer under La République. Why are we scared of hoisting this flag? They insisted. Then I said, no, we must put on the flag. The spiritual leader of the Southern Cameroons Youth League, we call him Django, hoisted the flag. And I discovered something when that flag was hoisted. When the flag came down, I took the flag. I realized that nobody gave a flag to this 9-man delegation. That they went to the UN, went to the corridors of the UN, which is what most of our people have been doing, and gave us the impression that they went to the UN, were received by the United Nations, and came back, and everybody thought independence was coming the next day. So now, because they know that flag was not handed to them properly, officially by the UN, they were scared of hoisting that flag. That actually signaled to us that if we do not do something, if we, the youth, do not rise up and start taking our own destiny into our hands, this older generation are going to run to our death without the possibility of fighting back. That is exactly what happened. And in the course of that, we were able to do the things we did in 1997. So, why did I go to prison? I went to prison because by March 1997, the Southern Cameroon Defense Force have decided that the people of the Southern Cameroons have had enough of the torment, the persecution, the thingification, the depersonalization, and the imbued dehumanization which La République du Cameroon was constantly imploring on our people. Unfortunately, the issue of independence, the issue of external self-determination, which was being preached by the Southern Cameroon's Youth League, which was being preached on the Pacific level by the Southern Cameroon's National Council, which was being upheld by the Southern Cameroon's Restoration Movement, the successor organization of the Cameroon Anglophone movement, was not being upheld by many of our people. At that time, to talk about the issue of self-determination was like talking about the issue of, in the days of, in quote, the Maquis war in La République du Cameroon. It was almost like the days when it was almost illegal to call the name of Albert Woman Muko. If you call his name, you become a criminal. You can't talk about Ernest Owanji of La République. You can't talk about Felix Roland Momi. That is how this struggle was in the 90s. It was a taboo. You have to be bold enough, like Chief Fwacheleke Charles Taku. You have to be bold enough, like our departed brother Bate Bison. You have to be bold enough, like the days that Charlene Diche was a journalist. You have to be bold enough, like what even Zachary Nko used to do. Without that type of boldness, that ability to come out and say, I'm willing to die, you won't talk about Southern Cameroon. Nobody wanted to hear about it. Not even within the ranks of political parties at that time. Not the LDA of Jolly Tumbe, not the NDP of Ambassador Fossong, not even the SDF of John Frundi. It was a taboo. We were outsiders, but we stood our ground. We continued to do the things we want to do. So in 1997, I went out for a tour. This tour was specifically for the northern region because I've toured every nook and cranny of the southern region. And I can assure Ambazonians listening to me now that in 1990, in the 90s, I beg your pardon, there is just no part in Ambazonia land where the people were not prepared to break free. If anyone tells you that in the 90s, Ambazonians actually, that you will meet face to face, do not want independence, tell that person they have to have their head examined. I went to every nook and cranny and I was welcome. And everybody wanted freedom. And when I went to the northern region and had a lot of meetings and then went to Kumbo, I left Kumbo, I was coming back. What actually happened was that we were preparing for war. And in reality, we raided Razel, the Razel depot at Ye in Kumbo, where we took hundreds of explosives. And the purpose of those explosives was to prepare ourselves for outright war. Unfortunately for us, Ambazonians being who they are, someone within that rank sold us out. And that is how, when we arrived Jakiri, in means of picking up not just the explosives, some other equipment that we had at that time, to make sure that we can prepare ourselves to face this barbaric, monstrous regime. In 1997, early 1997, we have made a timetable that before it's December 1997, Southern Cameroons will be free. We have charted it out until we were betrayed by one of us at that hour. And that betrayal led to my arrest, led to the persecution and torture I went through. Took me to Yaoundé, took me to Kondenge, where I was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment after being promised a death sentence. So that is why I was in prison. I went to prison not because I wanted to become president of La République du Cameroon, not because I and the other Southern Cameroonians went out there and trying to disturb the peace, which is not existing at that time. I went to prison because in the 90s, we had come to realize that if we, Ambazonians today, Southern Cameroonians, historically, are going to be a free people, are going to be a nation, are going to be accepted as a people with a distinct culture, a way of life, and a particular language that connects us, that if we are going to be one of the most prosperous and freest society within the armpit of Africa, we must be prepared to go to war. Not a war to conquer, but a war to free ourselves. That was in the 90s. And I am thanking Jehovah Elohim that decades after, our people have come to realize that the language of the annexationist is the only language we can use to make the rest of the world understand our plight and suffering. And maybe somehow, someday, as we continue to fight to free our homeland, their consciences will judge them to realize that we are part of the human race and deserve to be a free people and stand by us.
Thank you, Doctor. The last part of the question, I wanted you to share with us your escape from Kondengi prison. I mean, it's one of the worst prisons in Africa. I wanted you to give us, you know, an insight of how that happened, if you don't mind.
Frankly speaking, I am not at this moment ready to talk about how I escaped from Kondengi maximum security prison.
Okay.
But I can assure you that I am working on a book which will be out in a couple of months. And I bet you there is a particular chapter about that. The BBC have asked me about that question. The Voice of America have asked about that question. Other journalists have tried to trick and prick me to talk about it. I have said I've been waiting for the moment to explain how it happened. Partly because I don't know whether another Ambazonian or any other political prisoner might want to use the same route which I took. That was the first thing. Secondly, I realized that maybe I should wait for a particular moment to bring it out. But because of the particular situation of our struggle at the moment, Derek, it is important that I inform our people, because I, Akwanga, now live on what I call a tiptoe stance. Nobody knows what might happen tomorrow. So before they come for me, it will be better that I personally tell the story as it was, not someone telling it after I'm gone.
Doctor, to look at those insights, so you share your experience with. I'm sure that every young Ambazonian out there would be hungry to hear that particular story. I think it's a liberating moment for all Ambazonians. You know, it's very significant of the odds that you beat at that time. Doctor, it's very clear that our struggle has come to that time, which the SCYL, why the SCYL was formed. It was eminent that we need to fight for our freedom. And that time has come, and we have seen that on the ground. The boys are resolute. We see that in videos. We hear when we speak to them. We hear them stand against the oppressor despite their limitations in terms of resources, but they stand brave because they are not fighting to conquer, but they are fighting to free their land. Doctor, the last few days especially, we have heard a lot of cries from Ground Zero, from our boys, shortages on supplies. I just want to find out from you what strategy. Obviously, you have the SCYL has been on this particular mission longer than every other person in the struggle. So I know that in terms of being in the forefront, definitely the SCYL should be in the know. So what strategy do you have as SCYL to make sure that the defenders on the ground do not face a situation of vulnerability in front of the enemy just because they lack supplies? I hope that there's a strategy, and maybe without revealing a lot, you can just talk to that.
Derek, this is a very poignant question. What bothers me most about those who are putting their lives at risk on Ground Zero, what troubles me every day I go to bed, every time I dare to eat or take a cup or sip a cup of water, is that I keep asking myself a simple question. What exactly is wrong with us, Ambazonians? What exactly is wrong with us? I am troubled and very troubled. Troubled to know that even after we have come to the undeniable fact that nowhere in the world has a people marched their way to their own freedom, those who have the capacity to make sure that our fighting forces Do not resort to become kidnappers. Do not get involved in committing crimes which international law will hold us responsible for. Do not get down the dirty road of what the annexationist terrorists are doing to us in our homeland. Are compelled to go down some difficulties and do things which, as real Ambazonians, they will not do. Because some of us, with the capacity to keep them going, have refused to do that. And let me tell you why. The chaos that has been imbued in this struggle, I don't want to blame our people that it took them quite some time to understand what I meant by the necessity to obtain an AK-47. I was talking about the right to self-defense. I couldn't call a machete. I couldn't call a spear, a bow and arrow. So I have to use the AK-47 as an instrument of self-defense. And today, everyone knows that that is the only Bible and the only religion that can make our message go around the world is that of unredeemable violence imposed upon us through the right of self-defense. When people are crying for granules, and Derek, we raise money at a time we know people are dying, and then we call it my trip to Boya. Or we raise money in other instances, and we do not think that these people are fighting to liberate a homeland. Some of us will hold back the money, acting as if they want to free Akwanga. There is no land called Akwanga. There is no land called Derek. There is no land. There is no land called Litumbe. There is no land called Ayok. I know there is a place called Ayokagba in Manu. But that is not Ayok. There is just no land called Yaba. There is no land called Bo. There is no land in this world at this moment that our people or the rest of the world are going to call Dinka. There is a piece of land that has gained its name from a bay called Amba's Bay, a land we call today Ambazonia. Ambazonia, the former British Southern Cameroon, which is historically known. There is no land called Nenji. There is no land called Kamara. Yet what is wrong with us? That we don't even feel shame and guilt. That when we send other people's children to go and die for the rest of us, we are the first to spread their pictures, to have crocodile tears, to do all types of funny things. At that very moment they are dying, we are organizing baby shower instead of buying granules. We are organizing marriages. We are getting all types of ceremonies, drinking beer. Some of us are even drinking BST from La Republic, even in the US. We are making the loudest noise. We can put in money for our Njangis because we know at the end of the year, we will get it back. We are not prepared to sacrifice for those who have put their lives at risk for us. It is a shame, it's a problem. That is why, Derek, I came to Southern Africa. I came to Southern Africa because when I hear the cries of these young men and women, and I see that because of the attitude of some of us out here, we are pushing them to do things which no guerrilla team has ever done in the world. They are now acting as if they are conventional forces, which they are not. Because we have not only added chaos to them, we have refused to supply them the means. Yes, it is true. The people realize the necessity for an AK-47 very late. But how many of us have within a split second heard that we have a relative who is sick? We sent in money. 3 hours later, the relative is dead. We are ready to give money for the corpse to be taken to the mortuary and start preparing for burial. Why can't we treat the liberation of our own homeland like that extreme emergency that necessitates this type of individual action that we will carry when it concerns an individual family member or loved one. So you ask me, what strategies are there? Frankly, I would be crazy to sit here and talk about strategies of giving our boys the fighting chance to defend our homeland. How many of us really feel when we see those mass graves, those wounds, those faces shot, those young girls who are being asked to swim in mud, they become like tadpoles? How many of us really feel them? How many of us? We've become champions of chaos on Facebook and WhatsApp. Some of us who are leaders have 15, 20 different accounts to take and insult one another and add more chaos into the struggle. Some of us collect money and we steal that money and put in our pocket because we think nobody is watching us. Money that is meant to supply something for the fighting forces. When we lie behind the scene, we think we will go free. Every one of us is going to be judged according to how we prosecute the struggle, Derek. I came to SCBC today. There were many who did not want me to come here. I said, no, I am a father. I am not too old. I've been in this struggle. I've never left this struggle. I've ever stood. The position I took in 1995 remains the same position. Even when I joined Cameroon Anglophone movement, when they were talking of the return to two-state federation before it was rejected. So we have a problem. I would expect to see SCBC organize a particular edition only to raise funds for groundnut. And that money should not be used for any other purpose but to be sent to the ground forces. You guys know how to get to me. You know how you can get to Tiger, to ADF, to Red Dragon, and the other fighting forces down there. Let me assure you something, Derek. La République du Cameroon cannot stand Ambazonians. We are responsible for the slow nature of this struggle. It is not the quarrels. The quarrels are normal in every liberation struggle. It is our inability to listen and prosecute the struggle the way it's supposed to be done. We have refused to listen to the experts because we think we hate them. We don't like the size of their head or where they come from. And that is why we get ourselves in this.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
Let the fighters know. Let them listen to what I'm saying here. To those of you who are fighters for SOCADEF, the Mother Liberation Defense Force, created in 1995. To those of you who have been fighting on behalf of Ambazonia Defense Force, ADF. To those of you who have been fighting on behalf of Tigers, Vipers. To those of you who belong to Red Dragons. To those of you who belong to groups that have just come up on their own, like what happened in Mutengene today, where the quarter boys have to act on their own. Let me assure you of one thing. The words of God don't come back and doesn't perform. It must act before it goes back. You will get what you want. We will fight this war with La République. But one thing you should understand is that there is no timetable for victory because nobody is going to win this war. It is going to end on a negotiated settlement. The only victory we will get is that day when we hoist the flag we have chosen, sing the anthem we all love, shake hands with one another, and forgot about the quarrels and the innuendos that has existed among us, and say, free at last, thank God Almighty, Ambazonia is free at last. We are seeing you people. We are thinking of you people. I am here in Southern Africa. I stay with hunger, though I'm a gastric patient. I sleep with difficulties. I even go where lights and water are kept because I'm finding the possibility to make sure that if you have to die on the ground, we can reduce the rate of those who will die from the bullets of La République du Cameroon. We must supply you what you need.
Thank you very much,
and
Doctor.
Any individual or group who has the capacity should understand that SOCADEF is not going to free SOCADEF. It's going to free Ambazonia. It means you must work hand in hand. If SOCADEF is having granules and there is action by us, and you are able to link to one another, and you say we are taking action here and our granule is finished, it is the duty of SOCADEF to supply you granule. Because SOCADEF is not going to liberate a land called SOCADEF. It's going to liberate a land called Ambazonia. That is what I expect from every fighting group down there. Please, if you have your leaders, your liberation leaders, who think more of themselves than Ambazonia, who want to make a name for themselves than a name for a new state. Reject them. Throw them into a dustbin and keep moving for Ambazonia. Because that is why we don't collaborate. SOCADEF has worked with every defense force on the ground. That is reality. We have operated with ADF. Even in situations where we were abused, deceived, lied to, we operated with them. Because ADF, SOCADEF, we are all fighting for the same thing. We have operated with Tigers. We have operated with DOD, which today some people call ARA. There is just no team that has called SOCADEF for backup. We have not done it. Because to us, Ambazonia is bigger. People might not like our approach. We are trying to be more professional. We do not kidnap people to take money from them, though we know why some of our forces do that. We want to do it the right way because, Derek, we should understand that we don't only need to be free. We need to think of what we will do when freedom comes. How we are going to carry out disarmament. How we are going to make sure that we don't create a land which is going to be imbued with a lot of kidnappers and bandits. Because in this act, it is just an act like counterfeiting. When you become too used to it and you do it every day, it becomes lucrative. It becomes part and parcel of you. Even after this war is over and Ambazonia is free, some people will find it difficult to break away from that. So that is why SOCADEF is saying we do not want our forces to do that. We will prefer to stay without granite. We will prefer to stay without sophisticated equipment than to go around and make ourselves a threat to our own people. Let us understand where they are. Someone who stands against us in this struggle is different from somebody who is within the system and is just finding a way to feed their own family.
Thank you.
Different.
Thank you very much.
So we should draw that line. We should be looking at the future. That is what I studied in school. That is what they call guerrilla warfare. You don't only look to win the war. You look to make sure that at the end of the day, you don't just win the war. You win the hearts and minds of the people and build a solid country. The SPLA made a mistake. We will not make the same error that the SPLA made. We cannot do that. That is why we are a lucky generation. Ambazonia is a lucky nation because we are not yet a state. We must learn from the errors of the others and try to perfect it. If tomorrow the Oromos want to learn from us if we are a free state, they should be able to learn from the positivity of the Ambazonian revolution or struggle. That is the way we have to do it, Derek. So that is the difficulties we are facing. So the only thing we can do now is to make sure we don't just talk. As much as there is frustration on the ground, the money that has been raised, every other little cash that is out there should be invested, not for conferences, not for backdoor meetings, not for paying salaries, for nothing else than to give to those fighting on the ground. I don't care if nothing is given to SOCADEF. If all the resources are given to ADF or Tiger, that is fine with me. As long as they will take the resources and use it to chase these hoodlums, these criminals, these Lucifer's cousins that have decided to take our homeland and turn our people into some sort of a ping pong, a football. Treat us like we are worse than cockroaches, as they themselves are insulting us.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Doctor. Doctor, when you spoke about some of the things that our boys resort to, you brought my mind directly to an Amnesty International report, which was quite strange to me as an activist, where Amnesty used the words of La République calling us armed extremists, which was funny because Amnesty doesn't call ISIS terrorists. Amnesty called them by their name that they have given themselves, Islamic State. Amnesty finds it difficult to call us Ambazonians, and we have attacked them as activists, sent an open letter to them telling them that the narrative of La République that they are selling, we don't buy that, and we are going to take it to the international community. But what is even more important is that after the Amnesty report came out, immediately we started seeing pictures of some boys torturing people. Videos of some boys torturing people on the ground, and exactly what you said, that you don't want us to persecute a revolution in a way that we will end up with some of our commanders having to face crimes. And I'm beginning to wonder this international conspiracy, Doc, and I want you to speak to it. Are these things made, are this La République's doing on the ground, which ties with exactly what Amnesty has just done, like other international conspiracies like the UN and every other international movement. Do you think that this is a bigger game at play here with all those videos coming out? Because I understand the way SOCADEF functions. I mean, we have never seen pictures or videos of SOCADEF forces. We understand the professionalism. So just tell us a little bit about that and probably give a little bit of experience advice to the boys on the ground on how to conduct themselves. I know that you study some of these things, you know, for your PhD, so you are the best person to really advise.
This is what I want our people to know. When we were arrested in 1997, we were abandoned by the SCNC. Ambazonians abandoned us. We're more than 187. They technically abandoned us. We had somebody like the late Albert Woma Mukong and the H. Aru Digi that stood by us. But this is what will shock Ambazonians. Amnesty International did a lot of work in standing beside us and keeping most of us alive. They raised funds, which they did not only use to buy medication for us. Amnesty International did what I know they hardly do. They raised funds that were used to feed us in prison. This might be a shock to people. I am giving you the facts. Now, I am an a long-time member of Amnesty International. I joined Amnesty at the age of 14, getting to 15. The same time I became a member of the African National Congress. Amnesty has done a lot of good work, a lot. But it is shocking and disgraceful, but not surprising, that the head of Amnesty International from West Africa, Dauda, you can hear his name. Find out where that office is located. Where is Dauda located? This is not first somebody from English-speaking country. Where is he located when he writes that report? Because when Ambazonians see something, I've told our people to be very, very careful. This is somebody who is a French-speaking citizen who is preparing a brainwash report on behalf of a French-speaking territory that has annexed and is terrorizing and killing our people. And Amnesty International knows that he is the Assistant Regional Director. It is a disgrace to Amnesty, which I belong as a member. It is a shame. I still speak for Amnesty in Washington, D.C. area. I am called up to speak for fundraising. How am I going to go to an Amnesty meeting with a clear face and talk about the good works of Amnesty when Amnesty International is so ashamed to call the name of God's own children? What is our crime? That is the question I'm asking. On the 6th of April 1999, I told the military tribunal that war is coming. Amnesty is having this particular message in their report. Nobody took it seriously. I wrote to Paul Biya from cell number 75, which I was sharing that cell. On cell number 76 was Mbale Ngulu, Paul Biya's little friend who wrote Blood, Biya's Power Lotion, was in cell local 76. I was in local 75. I wrote a letter to Biya. That letter was taken to Biya by Father Gerard, who handed that letter to Jean Zoa. When he took that letter to Biya, I was immediately sent on solitary confinement for 2 years to Mfu. I made it clear to Biya that there is nothing he can do to stop the train of independence. If he doesn't call for a meeting to sit with the people and talk, the people responsible, I was not even counting myself at that time, he should be prepared that war is coming. Biya's response was to send me to solitary confinement for 2 years where I became paralyzed. So the situation is simple. As much as I am concerned with some of the difficulties that our forces are facing on the ground and the things they have to do, the things they are doing not because they like doing it, but because some of us have refused to give them the backing while they are risking their own lives. Amnesty International should know this. Everything that is happening in our homeland, whether they are child soldiers that are fighting for Ambazonia or what, Paul Biya, La République du Cameroon, and every state that is directly and indirectly backing them, is solely responsible for this war and solely responsible for the atrocities that are being committed. They had the option, the opportunity to make sure we do not reach this stage. But they took us for granted. They consider us to be what they call a kafar, cockroaches. They consider us to be nothing. We were worse than the cube of sugar which Honorable Weber was alerting to. These guys took us for nothing. They took us to be some punching bags where they were doing their boxing training. And when now we say enough is enough, we can stand as a people and resist, that we have the capacity, that we are the descendants of General Kuva Likenye, the one man who defeated the Germans, the greatest barbarian that has ever lived, that we descend from him. And our inability to fight does not mean we are afraid. We started in 1997, they rounded us and locked us up, killed some of us, fed us with human feces and urine, raped us, put us on balançoire. We refused to die. We came back, again they continue, and we say we will fight them. Amnesty International should be ashamed of itself. But I am not surprised with Amnesty report. Why? Who are those who are backing Amnesty? That is the question you should ask yourself. Who are those? They are individuals who have other deals in the world. They are multinational firms that are responsible for the carnage in our homeland. So when Amnesty comes and writes this report, it is the same way that you find somebody from a French-speaking country, in a French-speaking country representing Amnesty International, writing about an issue that he knows little or nothing about, and trying to think that he can whitewash it. Amazonia is not going anywhere. CNN lies, they talk about it. BBC lies, they talk about it. Every other international network can refuse to talk about Amazonia. We are not going anywhere. I don't know why the world is not able to understand. You see, I am a typical example of an Ambazonian. They killed me and refused to die. They gave me death, death refused to come. That is what every Ambazonian is. So these people should learn their lesson. They can do whatever they do, write whatever report they write. The only good thing is that I have time and time again cautioned, advised, behind and in public, informing you, Derek, and the rest of the Ambazonian people that our destiny is in our own hands. Don't count on any United Nations, any Ambazonia, any African Union. Until you do it, nobody is going to come to your aid. Remember, if wars will end in this world, the job for the United Nations Refugee Commission will almost be in existence, apart from natural disasters like earthquakes and the rest. They will become unemployed. Unfortunately, that is how the world is. We do not make arms. Ambazonians do not make arms. In Africa, the only country that we know they produce arms is South Africa. We don't make arms. We don't make bullets. We don't make any of these things. So when companies produce all these weapons and the rest, what do you think they will keep them? What do you think they will do with it? That is why you find wars all over. An issue which would have been resolved easily with every historical tendency, every geographical fact, that you just need to put these people on the table and ask the Republic du Cameroon, where is the signed document between the two of you? They will say, there is nothing. They say, okay, now because you have lived together, because they say when you stay with a woman in the same house, maybe for 6 months in certain countries, they consider you as husband and wife, which means, though you have not legally married with signing of papers and rings and the rest, but if there are assets, you cannot just send the woman away, or vice versa, you will share part of it. This is something that they would have said, okay, you people have stayed together for some time. Let's see how we can solve this amicably. What is wrong with the human race? Why are we so hypocritical? All these people who are running their mouth now and talking and the rest, were they not there in 1997 when they were killing us? Were they not in court? The American ambassador was there. The UK High Commissioner was in court. The Canadian High Commissioner was in court. There were dignitaries in court. When I said in court, if you do not solve this problem, war is coming because the Southern Cameroons is not going anywhere until it achieves its goal. Where were they? They needed a Malala Yousafzai to come and talk to them to receive bullet-reading body? No. These guys will not solve problems until they are able to make sure we buy arms to use. Because that is the purpose of producing new arms every day. When you make arms, you need to test them. You don't test them with animals. You test them on human beings. It is ridiculous. It is a shame. Amnesty International should look at itself in the mirror of Human Rights Watch. They have been coming laughing stock. It is grace for what they wrote. I would challenge Amnesty in an Amnesty meeting because I am not going to take off my membership card. They've done a lot of good. But this evil that they have done is not only going to be called. They will have to right it. They will have to right these wrongs because it is their duty to do that. Or they have to cease existing. They should not make us create Ambazonia and ban Amnesty for life. And even go after them. Because this is ridiculous. But let Ambazonians not be concerned or worried about Amnesty. If I, Akwanga, as a father for this liberation struggle, as someone you know, start failing you, you have to be concerned. Don't be concerned about Amnesty or Samira Dauda, who knows nothing about this struggle. Be concerned about what we do in this struggle. Because it is only us who will free ourselves. Even others come to back us. They will only be doing the backing, we will be doing the job. We must prosecute this struggle and free ourselves.
Thank you.
South Sudan is suffering.
Thank you, Doctor. I'm so sad that time is catching up with us, and I've got a lot of questions. Doctor, as the leader of the SCYL, what is your outlook on collaboration with other movements in the struggle, sir?
I don't have a problem with collaboration because we have been doing that long time ago. The only problem I told our people is that when there is a struggle in the world, it's like if you create a political party, you don't create it from sky. You try to learn from other parties. You try to create relationship. Like the SDF became a member of what they call Socialist International, so that they can learn from those parties that have been existing to see what they can bring into the, in quote, Cameroonian setting when they were running the SDF. So the problem we had in this struggle is that when at times I try to advise, they say, oh, doctor, you are talking as if you are the only one who knows. This is a problem in the struggle. The problem is that I went to the oldest military academy in the United States. I took my time before I did my doctorate. I knew war is coming, and I focused on our struggle because I am looking at the war situation and I'm looking at the after-war situation. So collaboration is not an issue. The problem we have is that it depends on who you are collaborating with. What is the raison d'etre of the individual? What is the raison d'etre? We have created ACT, and people ask us, is ACT out to challenge? What is ACT when there is IG? I said, no, listen, get this very clear. The only reason ACT was created was because those who created SCYL failed to do the right thing. If they have done the right thing, ACT would not have been created. We are not looking for unity, a basket where they will put all of us into it, call us into a secret meeting and kidnap us as they kidnapped Comrade Ayok and the others. Just imagine if that happened, that every one of us was carried in that basket. Derek, there would have been pandemonium. Some of you people would have been wearing about 20 black shirts and trousers today, crying every day over nothing. We said that in South Africa, we have the Azania movement, the Pan-African Congress, the Communist Party, and the ANC. It is the ANC and the Communist Party that came together to start the Nkoto Wasizwe. We said, let people work in their own confines to liberate Ambazonians. Let them not go against one another. That is the only issue we have. You should be working to liberate the homeland, not trying to undercut other groups. Acting as if you are fighting the other groups rather than fighting the enemy. So collaboration is necessary. I had a meeting, a 5 hours, 30 minutes meeting with Comrade Milton. I don't want to give the discussions we had. But there is one thing I told him. I am having this meeting with you does not mean I recognize the IG. No. I have said, and I want to say it here, I reject the creation of a government without a territory. And I was right. Because it has brought us a lot of confusion. I do not reject the creation of a government. If we seize a piece of land and create that government, I don't care who becomes the president or prime minister or any name they want to call. You could even be called 20 His Excellency. That is not Akwanga's problem. The only problem I will have is that a piece of land has been liberated. We need to extend it to the entire territory and seize it. That is what I said. I spoke out of experience. But for the first time, I realized that experience no longer counts. They used to say an old broom sweeps better than a new one. But in our situation, it did not count. Thank God, Derek, everybody knows now that experience is important. And that God will not come and do this job. But God uses men and speak through us to do the job for each one of us. We will collaborate. But nobody is going to collaborate under gunpoint. There are groups down in ground zero. There are groups out here where there are leadership within those groups that are not fighting just to liberate Ambazonia, they're fighting to position themselves. And we find it difficult to collaborate 100% with those groups. We have collaborated before. I don't want to say certain things here because my goal is to bring the people together. A lot of mess has been done. More will be done. But the people should remain focused. Because if you don't remain focused, you only want to see just all of this mess. Mess caused by us and mess imposed upon us by La Republic. These are the two types of mess we have. There are individuals amongst us who just don't care. If X is going to be the one to free us, they are prepared to destroy it, that it is not their own person. We have those individuals. Meanwhile, there are also individuals among us who are under the payroll of La Republic du Cameroon. There is no gainsaying about it. If somebody has been a long-time member of President Bia's youth, and that person today becomes a communication director or whatsoever of an interim government, then that interim government is definitely sick of cancer, which is uncurable and has to destroy itself, or has a problem that needs a mental cure. Because we must know who are the people we work with. They say, show me who you work with, and I will tell you who you are.
Thank you very much,
when
Doctor.
Somebody has belonged to the Bia scam, collecting money from Bia in his university days, betrayed other students. Listen, that person does not change overnight, Derek. That person does not change overnight. If he's working with you for this struggle, he's looking for an opening. For an opening that he will take the entire struggle, put in that big hole, seal it, put the money in his pocket.
Thank you very much,
we should
Doctor.
go forward with collaboration, but we should not impose it. Talking to one another is important. That is very important.
Yes.
Talking to one another, but you must talk with clarity. Don't tell Akwanga something behind and you go to the public, you say a different thing. Don't lie, don't add sugar, don't add salt.
Doctor, we have a minute. We have a minute to the top of the hour, and there's one important question that I wanted to ask you. I'm sorry for interjecting there. So finally, Doctor, if you are given a box of cards to come out with one solution to this crisis as it stands right now, what would that solution be to solve the entire problem? That's a final bite because we are running out of time.
I came to Southern Africa to talk to the ANC, to bring in the Southwest Africa People's Organization, today called SWAPO Party. I came to Southern Africa to bring in the Front de Libération de Mozambique into this struggle. These are former liberation movements, and I'm talking to them. Now, let me make this clear. No matter what support might come from these angles, you have interviewed me from the first Ambazonia mission. And Derek, you are welcome here. This is your house. This is Ambazonia house. Despite that the SCYL created it, it is not for SCYL, it's for every Ambazonian. I came here to signal to the people in these various countries, these old former liberation movements, that when they were in their own time of crisis, we stood by them. And that we are not begging them, that morality and conscience demands that they stand by us. Not through rhetorics, but through their actions. So at this particular moment in time, you ask me what cut of a solution I will have. The solution is simple. We have the capacity, even with 10 guns, to do extreme damage to those who have turned our girls into tadpoles, turn our moms into sex apparatus for rape, turn our dads into firewood, turn our boys into something unrecognizable. We must find the means to back them before we are expecting any external backing. If the ANC, the SACP, the PC, the AM did their own part in the anti-apartheid struggle, if ZANO and ZAPO failed to do their own job, if SWAPO did not perform, if Frelimo gave in to Renamo, all these countries will not be where they are today, and their people will be worse than what they were before. So let us do our own job. Finance the struggle. I will expect that somebody gets up and say, we have collected 3 million. You don't need somebody to join you to give that money. It's not going to work. Come and say, we are investing this money. History will record it. Use it to defend the homeland. We must each, Derek, take this struggle personal. If we don't take it personal, we use it as a pastime, a time where we just want to relax, we will not be going anywhere. I want to thank you for having me on this program. And I hope that the one thing Ambazonians should know is that Akwanga stands with you. So Kadef will do his own part of the job. The SCYL will not waver. I can equally say this to every fighting group on the ground, that despite all what they are doing, despite some of the craziness, some of the errors, some of the stuff that are unrecognizable, rest assured that the higher alternative is that each group wants to free the homeland, as much as their individual leaders with different motives. Give them their backing. Give every backing you want. I am open to everyone at any time, 24 hours a day, because until Ambazonia is free, none of us can truly go to sleep soundly.
Much, Doctor, for joining us this evening. We will definitely be inviting you for more of this. This was Dr. Ebenezer Akwanga, Derek Mbongo, joining us on Amba 360, and it's goodbye from the studios now.